But in episode 5, Sykes swears up and down that it was not her. Now, she was standing outside of Esme's apartment, and she did see a man and a woman enter, and she's fairly certain that they're the ones who killed Esme, but she says it wasn't her, and Peggy does not believe her at all. They end up actually going to Esme's funeral, although standing away from the crowd from a distance. And they aren't the only ones who are watching from a distance. Thomas Wayne and Martha Kane are also watching from a distance. Martha asks Thomas if the police have a suspect, but Thomas says no. Apparently, it was a burglary gone wrong. Thomas then starts saying how the Legion is very happy with the fact that they were able to get the Raven Society's leader's name. But Martha doesn't care. She's pretty depressed. She feels like she's partly to blame for what happened to Esme, since Alfie wanted to go home and she kind of kept him from not going home. Now, after the funeral, Peggy and Sykes are driving around London when all of a sudden Sykes thinks she knows a homeless guy on the corner. And when she gets closer, she realizes, yeah, that's my old boss. That's Lord Harwood. But Lord Harwood is far from the person that she knew because he's chained up like a dog. Lord Harwood's, I don't know how to put it, I guess his master comes over and warns Sykes, be careful, he bites. But Sykes starts yelling at him for chaining up a human being like a dog. The guy tells her to piss off, but you don't tell Bet Sykes that. She walks over to him and his friends, and she smashes a glass right in his face, and then tells Lord Harwood, come on, you're coming with us. Harwood starts dog walking over to the car, and Peggy doesn't really want to take him, but Sykes is adamant that she's not coming unless Harwood comes with her. So Peggy and Sykes take Harwood back to that old couple's house, and they slowly start to teach him how to be a human being again, get his dignity back. That includes getting a nose cover and new feet, and slowly you can see him coming back. But over at the Pennyworth house, Alfie is not taking this well at all. Martha Kane isn't the only person who blames herself because Alfie also blames himself. He feels like his actions, i.e. cheating on Esme, might have solely led to her death. But everybody realizes that Alfie is going to need some time to heal from what happened. Now, we fast forward a few months later, and Alfie is still not healed. But that proclamation that kept coming up about civil unrest and a possible civil war is coming true. The No-Names and the Raven Society have taken their fight to the streets. All of a sudden, hooligans aren't fighting about soccer, but they're fighting about these societies. Thomas Wayne is still in London, still working for the No-Name League, and while he walks down the street one day, one of the No-Name representatives stops him and says, the leader wants to see you. And he takes Thomas Wayne back to the leader of the No-Name Society's house. When Thomas gets there, he meets the leaders, Julian and Undine Thwaite. Thomas sits down, starts having biscuits, and Julian tells him that things aren't going well. They're losing the battle in the streets. So he called a contact in the Raven Society and told them that he wants to discuss a truce and asked to arrange a meeting between himself and Frances Gaunt to discuss terms. If she agrees, they're planning on meeting in a safe and neutral place. But the plan isn't to actually discuss terms, the plan is to kill her. And this takes Thomas completely off guard. He was not expecting that. He even asks, isn't that a little extreme? But Julian says no. Desperate times call for desperate measures. He then tells Thomas that he wants him to arrange everything, i.e. Frances Gaunt's murder. But Thomas doesn't feel comfortable with that. They start giving him, though, some BS about the bigger cause, and eventually Thomas just says, okay. But when he gets out of the meeting, he calls a guy named Hightower, who is his contact in the CIA. And that's because Thomas Wayne is a CIA agent. He tells Hightower about the entire meeting and about how they want him to kill Frances Gaunt. He feels like they asked him to do it because they know that he's CIA. But even though Thomas Wayne doesn't feel comfortable with being asked to kill Frances Gaunt, Chief Hightower says, okay, do it. If it comes to civil war, we'd rather have the No-Names prevail over the Raven Society. Washington's fine with Gaunt's death. Thomas asks, wait, how does Washington already know? But then he realizes, oh, it's because the CIA arranged all of this. So at this point, Thomas Wayne realizes he's going to have to arrange the murder of Frances Gaunt. In order to do that, though, he's going to need some help, and he needs Martha Kane. He heads over to her apartment and realizes that Martha Kane is struggling just like Alfie. Doesn't look like she's left her apartment in a while. Everything's disheveled, and immediately he starts questioning himself if it's too early to bring her back. But he's there, and she asks why he's there, so he says, we have an assignment from the leadership. She inquires as to what the job is, and he says, I'll tell you when you need to know, but we will have to use Pennyworth. And that's a deal breaker for Martha. She tells Wayne that she doubts Pennyworth will even want to work with the No-Name League again. And Wayne says, yeah, that's possible, but we have to convince him. We need him for this. He trusts you, so I need you to convince him. It's obvious, though, that she doesn't feel comfortable with convincing Pennyworth to go back to work, especially for the No-Name Society, after what happened to Esme. But just like Thomas Wayne, who was conflicted, she too eventually says, okay. The next day, she goes and visits Alfie at his house, and she tells him the League wants you to come back to work, but he says no, and tell him not to ask again. Martha says okay and starts to walk out, but before she leaves, she turns to Alfie and says, I'm doing what I'm told because I need a reason to get up in the morning. But Pennyworth says, I'm not doing violence anymore. I can't. They then say their goodbyes, and it really feels like the last goodbye. But as soon as he closed the door, he's visited by someone who he killed or was friends with maybe. And ever since Esme's death, he's been haunted by these people. This soldier named Spanish who he knew. Even the old woman who he accidentally killed that led them to Francis gone. It's as if Alfie is haunted by his demons of the past. But as Alfie tries to get in the right headspace, Martha heads back and tells Thomas, no deal. And Thomas really thought that if anybody could convince Alfie to come back, it would be Martha. But now he realizes that he might have to find somebody else. And that somebody else is Baza and Dave Boy. He heads to the club that, ever since Alfie has stopped working, has become kind of a nightmare. He proposes to them this offer, but Baza is very adamant the answer's a no. He doesn't even want to hear the offer. He doesn't want to hear how much money it is. Dave Boy, on the other hand, well, he can be bought. The deal is for 500 pounds each, but Thomas Wayne says if one of you guys does it, then you're going to get the whole 1,000 pounds. Even after hearing how much it is, Baza is still saying no. Dave Boy, however, is in. He doesn't care that it's to murder somebody. All he heard was the dollar sign. So Thomas Wayne has his hitman for Francis gone. But Dave Boy was plan B. Thomas Wayne's plan A gets a visit from a very familiar face, John Ripper. Ripper tells him how he's been meaning to stop in and check up on him, and now that he has, he realizes that Alfie needs a wake-up call. He reminds Alfie that he still owes him a favor, and he throws him some running shoes, because the favor is going to be that he becomes the Ripper's running partner. And at first, Alfie really doesn't want to do it, but they go out seemingly every day, and next thing you know, Alfie gets in really good shape. But one particular day, their normal route is rerouted, and they end up running into a cemetery, and it's the same cemetery where Esme was supposed to be buried, but she doesn't have a headstone. Alfie says to John, why did you bring me here? And he says, because you need a wake-up call. You need to get over this. I'm trying to help you, Alfie. We're friends. Alfie, though, doesn't want to hear it. He starts walking away, and John the Ripper yells, I have a question for you. Do you really think Esme was murdered in a home robbery? I mean, it looked like a robbery, but it's pretty obvious. Esme was killed to make you suffer. Now, I have no idea who killed Esme, but whoever did it wanted to hurt you so bad that murdering you wasn't enough. They wanted to see you squirm. So whoever it is knows you very well, and my guess is you also know them. Ripper then offers to put Alfie in contact with someone who, quote, knows it all. But Alfie knows that this know-it-all's name is going to come at a price. So Ripper tells Alfie what he has to do to get that name. Alfie then gets dressed, does his hair, and heads to the bar because he needs a shotgun. The bar owner tells him, yeah, sure, Alfie, whatever you need. But right before Alfie leaves, he says, hey, by the way, has anybody been talking crap on me? And Sandra, the bar owner's daughter, says, no, Alfie, everybody loves you. And Alfie says, okay, well, if anybody does, can you just let me know? And then he heads off to the club to meet Dave Boy. But when he arrives, the owner tells him that Dave Boy no longer works there. And when he goes in the back to talk to Baza, he sees Baza snorting coke. You can tell he's a little disappointed in Baza because one friend is seemingly not there unemployed and the other friend is banging lines. But he gets on track by asking Baza, where is Dave Boy? And Baza lets him know he's working for Thomas Wayne. Now, I don't know who the hit is, but whoever it is worth 1,000 pounds. Now, just like with the bar owner, right before Alfie leaves, he asks Baza, can you think of anybody who hates me? I mean, really hates me. And Baza says, no. What's this all about? But Alfie tells him, get clean, and then we'll talk after. Alfie then leaves the club to do that job for Ripper. Now, it's worth mentioning that this is the same night as the night where Francis Gaunt is to meet Julian and Undine Thwaite. And Francis shows up at this restaurant, and the whole time, Julian and Undine are trying to distract her enough, waiting for Thomas Wayne's hitman to arrive. And that hitman, of course, is Dave Boy, who sneaks in through the kitchen, but he's caught by one of the cooks. He has to put the entire kitchen staff into a closet at gunpoint to keep them quiet. And as Julian, Undine, and Francis are outside in the dining room bickering about which side is more poised for victory, Dave Boy pops out from the kitchen, shoots both of Francis's guards in the head, and then has her at gunpoint. He tells Francis, can you please look away? But Francis says no. And then she pulls out a gun and shoots Dave Boy, which catches everybody by surprise. Immediately, Julian says, we had nothing to do with this. But Francis is a licensed medical professional, So she immediately jumps into action to save Dave Boy's life. She doesn't want him to die. She starts trying to extract the bullet. And that's when Alfie shows up with that shotgun and sporting a ski mask. But as soon as he talks, Francis recognizes the voice, so he takes the ski mask off. And he's pretty surprised to see Dave Boy, and Dave Boy is very surprised to see him. Alfie asks Francis, can I take him out of here? And she tells him that he's probably going to die anyway, so yeah, sure, have at it. But right before Alfie picks up Dave Boy to leave, he has to do the job. And he pulls out that shotgun, but instead of shooting Francis Gaunt, he shoots Julian right in the face. And then he grabs Dave Boy, and they head off. He takes Dave Boy to the bar and starts banging on the door, and that's when Sandra opens it up. And Alfie places Dave Boy in a booth, and Sandra brings Alfie a drink. She asks Alfie, should I wake my dad? But Alfie says no. And that's because Alfie doesn't want to force the bar owner to watch what's going to happen next. He takes Sandra to the back and lays the wood, if you know what I'm saying. But all of that carnage back in the restaurant, someone's got to clean up that mess, and that someone is Inspector Aziz. He surveys the damage and then heads back to Buckingham Palace to report to the Prime Minister and the Queen. And the way he has it figured, Francis Gaunt ended up killing Julian Thwaite. This is pretty surprising to the trio because they didn't think Francis Gaunt had it in her, but they think this is great news. It means the No Name League is about to collapse. Aziz lets both the Queen and the Prime Minister know that for the time being, Undine is in charge of the No Name League until it goes to a vote. And no one in the room really thinks she's equipped for that job. The Queen even remarks that Francis Gaunt has done them a great favor, and they should remember it when they eventually have her in handcuffs. But little do they know that this was all orchestrated by Undine and Jack the Ripper, who were sleeping together. And after the job was finished, Jack reminds Undine, London will soon be yours. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought this sucked. Make sure to be nice in the comment section. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen there, I'll get it up in a few days, not to worry. And I have merchandise, so go buy a mug or something. It's never too early to think about Christmas gifts, folks. But once again, thank you for checking out this recap.